All right, let's get right into it. The culture war is heading somewhere you'd probably never expect, the museum. Yep, we're talking about a major throwdown over how America tells its own story. But hey, before we get into all that, if you like explainers that cut right to the chase, do me a huge favor and smash that like button. It really helps. Okay, so how did this whole thing even start?
Well, it all kicked off with this one statement from Donald Trump on Truth Social. He called on museums to, and I'm quoting here, stop saying how bad slavery was. Yeah, that single quote is pretty much the spark that lit this entire fire.
And that brings us to his main point, his big accusation, which he's basically wrapped up in the slogan, woke is broke. So let's unpack what he's actually claiming here. At the very center of his argument is this idea that museums, especially big ones like the Smithsonian, have just gotten way too negative. He put it like this.
Everything discussed is how horrible our country is.
And he says that this constant focus on the bad stuff is totally crowding out any talk of American achievement. His words, nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future. And, he connects this to the bigger picture. He's basically declaring that museums are, quote, essentially the last remaining segment of woke, which all comes down to his big, punchy slogan for this whole thing. Woke is broke. The idea he's pushing is that this way of looking at history isn't just wrong, it's a total failure. Okay, so this slide really breaks it down, right? You've got these two totally different versions of history, side by side. On one side, you have Trump's vision for what museums should be doing, talking about the future, success, how America is the hottest country. And on the other side, what he says they are doing, just talking about slavery, what we haven't accomplished, and how horrible things are. It's a fundamental clash over what the American story even is. All right, so he's not happy. But what's he going to do about it? Well, this isn't just talk. He's actually laid out a specific battle plan. It's basically a three-step attack. First, he wants to put institutions like the Smithsonian under review to make sure their story aligns with his. Second, he says he's told his lawyers to get on it. And third, the biggest threat of all, he's talking about cutting off their federal funding. Now, if you're thinking, is that a real threat? Well, we've kind of seen this movie before. Let's call it the Harvard playbook. The administration went after universities like Harvard for their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. When Harvard didn't back down, its federal funding got cut. The message here is pretty darn clear. Museums could be the next to face this exact same pressure campaign. And this isn't just theoretical. We have a perfect case study of how this pressure works in the real world. And it all centers on an exhibit at the National Museum of American History about presidential impeachments. So here's what went down. Trump was furious that his own impeachments were featured. The White House reportedly leaned on the Smithsonian, and for a little while, those references to him, poof, they were gone. Now, the museum said it was just for appearance, not political pressure, and they did put them back later. But it shows you just how intense this conflict can get. So that's the accusation and the plan. But of course, this didn't just happen in a vacuum. People pushed back, hard. Let's get into that. This whole debate really makes you stop and think, right? What is a museum's job anyway? Is it just to make us feel good and celebrate? Or is it to show us the whole story, including the parts that are difficult or painful to look at? And the pushback has been, well, let's just say it's been very direct. Congresswoman Sidney Comlager-Dove, who is also the Congressional Black Caucus whip, responded right to Trump, saying, "Slavery was bad, Donald. It's absurd that this even needs to be said." And her follow-up really gets to the core of the other side of this argument. She said, "We don't whitewash history, we learn from it." This really frames the museum's role as being about education, not just promotion. And she left him with a final warning, basically drawing a line in the sand and making it clear that the Congressional Black Caucus sees this as an attempt to rewrite the past, and they aren't going to let it happen. So, when you boil it all down, we're left with this huge central question. This is bigger than just museums. It's bigger than any one exhibit. It's about who gets to control the story of a nation, who gets to write our history. So what do you think? Is a museum's job to inspire or to show the full picture, warts and all? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I really want to know what you think. And hey, if you like breaking down big topics like this, do us a huge favor and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.